Hey everyone, and welcome back to The Perspective, a show where we take supernatural, paranormal claims, conspiracy theories, belief in aliens, psychics, you name it, we'll cover it. My name is Ethan, but your hosts for the evening are Autumn and Martin. How are you both doing?
Great, how are you?
I'm doing good. Martin, how about you?
Doing fantastic. I'm just started a new job and I'm loving it. So.
Ooh, bum. Oh, I better not do that.
Oh yeah, you get demonetized.
I know, right? In a heartbeat. If you have a story you want to share, a ghost experience, evidence for God, have you seen an alien before? Call the number at the bottom of the screen, 951-364-2430. There's a bunch of calls, so we're just gonna jump into them.
Can I just say one thing at the open before we take Melissa?
Oh, yes.
Just 30 seconds. I've seen a lot of posts and reposts on Facebook and Reddit about the Navy UFO sightings, and I will definitely admit I don't know what the fuck they are on the in the Navy footage. And again, as far as I can tell, this is confirmed. This is through multiple major news sources and confirmed by the Navy. But that doesn't mean that we know what they are. So if you have anything that you want to say about them or you want to talk about it, go ahead and call in, because that's something that I definitely want to bounce around ideas on.
All right. Well, I'm waiting for them to double check Melissa's audio. So before we get to Melissa, we'll go ahead. We have got a medium / psychic wants to talk about experience as a spiritual medium. So I'm going to go ahead. Where did that go? Crap. Oh, here we go. Sorry, everyone. Okay. So, Pamela, you are on with Martin and Autumn. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Great.
We're doing great. Sorry, I forgot Ethan just left the room. I was like, oh yeah, I need to answer now. Thank you so much for calling in, Pamela. We appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome.
So, what would you like to talk about tonight? Go ahead and kind of fill us in as to what you do.
Okay, well, Ethan had put a call out to anyone who had any kind of, paranormal experiences, and I've had hundreds. But I chose, a lot of them cross over into different areas, but I just chose mediumship, which is basically being in contact with people who have passed over.
Mm-hmm. And what happens when you have these experiences, and what makes you think that you're having a supernatural experience, I guess I would say?
Okay, well, a lot of different things can happen, actually, and I've been having this since I was a kid. It runs pretty heavy in my family. So there are times when I will hear voices, like actual, audio conversation with these people, and then sometimes, things will move. Sometimes there's music, but they feed me information. There's absolutely no way I could know otherwise.
Can you give us an example? Sorry to cut you off, Autumn.
Sure. No, one incident I had was I was working for this haunted tour that we have here in town, and I had met one of the leaders who I'd never met before, and we were sitting there talking, and I said, "Who's this man?" And I described a man, head to toe, and the curator, he started to weep, and I said, "It's your dad, isn't it?" And he said, "Yeah, he just died."
Mm-hmm.
So you can often actually see physical beings as well. That's just one example.
Yeah, no, thank you. Yeah, thank you for providing it.
Mm-hmm.
So you had no knowledge of this person before that day?
No, I hadn't. Just minutes after we met.
The curator, I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's fascinating. I guess I don't want to make an assessment without knowing any more. Can you give us a couple more examples?
Well, actually, I had one that same night. I was working for them as a psychic, and I actually hate the word psychic because everyone thinks of Miss Cleo and it sounds really cheesy. But there was a massacre here in 1903, and it was the biggest one in history, and we were doing a haunted tour. So during the haunted tour, I just kept getting pushed. And when I say pushed, it's kind of almost like someone wants to talk to you and they're in your face and won't leave you alone until you acknowledge them. It feels
Okay,
like that.
I know the type.
So this woman just... I'm sorry?
Oh no, I was just saying I know the type of person you're describing.
Yeah. So this woman just kept pushing me, and I walked up to this gentleman I'd never met before, and I said, this might sound strange to you, I normally don't do this. I said, but there's a woman, and I described her physically. I said, and she's holding yarn. I said, and she's crocheting something, and she just keeps saying yarn, yarn. I said, I think it's your grandmother. And I said, and this is what she looked like. So I described her physically, and he said, I have no idea what you're talking about. And I said, okay. I said, I could be wrong. So later on, he came up to me, and he said, can you tell me that story again? So I told him, and I said that she raises sheep, and there's something about yarn, and she just keeps pushing in my face. And she wants, to tell you that you're okay, and et cetera, et cetera. And he said, I just don't understand. He said, my grandmother raised sheep, and she made her own yarn, but I don't see the connection.
What do you mean by he didn't see the connection?
He wasn't the brightest crayon in the box, apparently. So I was
So
just
you
telling
think
this whole story about this woman who's cooked.
You think that he kind of didn't understand what was happening, and that it was his grandma? Like, you think he didn't understand that you were contacting his grandma?
Oh no, he fully understood the purpose of the tour, and he did understand later, but it made me laugh because I was telling him what his grandmother was saying, and he just couldn't connect the fact that they both raised sheep and made their own yarn. I maybe had to be there, but
Yeah. So I'm curious.
Instances like that.
I'm curious how you think this works, and I don't mean how in like present an equation or anything like that, but just kind of detail for us like what goes on, behind the scenes, or what what your best hunch is as to what's going on when this happens.
Okay, so I too can be very much skeptic, so I'm not some airy-fairy crazy person, but basically...
Oh, no, we are not saying that. Yeah, we are not saying that, just to be clear.
You're not,
okay.
Yeah. So basically, what I tell people to start off with, first law of physics, energy cannot be created nor destroyed. So when somebody dies, that energy has to go somewhere.
What energy?
And I actually religious... Well, everyone's body is made up of energy.
No, it's made up of cells.
But you have an energy in you.
What? Okay. What kind of energy? Because there's heat energy, there's potential energy, there's kinetic energy. What type of energy are we talking about? Can it be classified or measured?
Yes, absolutely, and it has been done. So at the time of when people die, they can see this shift in energy, and I suppose it could be kinetic. It's also electrical energy.
What kind of shift in energy are we talking about?
Well, the body is just a vessel. So when somebody dies, they're just leaving behind an empty container. Mm-hmm. And a lot of this comes back to my religious upbringing as well. So...
Well, is it okay if I ask you a couple questions about that claim that we all have, that the body is just a vessel?
Mm-hmm. Sure, go ahead.
So I'm curious, and I just want to establish a baseline. I don't want to get into a debate over it because it's kind of a sideline, but are you familiar with the theory of evolution, and is it something you generally accept?
Of course.
Okay. No, I just wanted to make sure. So do animals have souls too? Because I think we're talking about souls here, right? Okay. And I don't want to put words in your mouth if you're not using the word soul. Okay, so animals do have souls. Okay, no, I was just looking for consistency because sometimes people think that animals don't have souls, but humans do, and I don't see what the difference is because we're just creatures like animals are. We're just, very intelligent. Or some of us, at least.
Yeah.
Results pending for about a third of the country still, but anyway.
Yeah. We all have our days.
We do.
So,
okay, I was just curious. But, go ahead.
Okay, well, we'll just call it a soul just for, I mean, that's,
Okay.
so, they've actually physically monitored and can tell when a soul leaves a body.
Who has?
How can you tell?
So,
Yeah.
The energy levels change. I mean, I actually don't have the references in front of me, but I can send them to you.
Well, I mean, it's not. I hate getting into the point where we cite references. Like, I don't want to cite references to you. That's why I asked, like, with evolution, do we generally agree on it? Because it's not, we're not. Neither of us is in a situation right now where we can stop and read something and then keep the show going because it's, it's a talk show. But feel free to send those references to Ethan. He'll pass them along to us. Just however you got in touch with him in the first place, and maybe we can continue the conversation down that path in the future. But back to things that we can talk about today. So yeah, so do you know how they're measured? Like we measure heat with a thermometer, for example. Do you know what tool is used to measure this level of energy?
Well, it's really kind of getting off the topic, but
okay, sorry, you're right. It is actually. It is.
Yeah. So where shall we go from here?
I'm open to looping back to your experience as a spiritual medium. I just saw some meat and potatoes that we could get into there. So.
Sure. Yeah. No problem. Yeah, I would have prepared that part of it if I,
No, that's okay. And I'm not trying to blindside you. It's not like everybody goes around prepared for a debate, and that's why we look at this as a perspective sharing. It's not supposed to be a debate. But anyway, yeah, you go ahead and loop us back.
Okay, so basically, how it works as a medium, as I said, sometimes there's conversation, sometimes there's visual contact. We used to have people. I grew up in a haunted house. They actually don't really like it when you call it haunted, but. So there were experiences ever since I was a little girl. People singing in the house, noises, doors flying open, music, just all different kinds of things. And that was normal to us.
Right.
So not being a medium is so foreign to me. I have no concept of what normal people live like. But,
it can get kind of boring sometimes. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, well, I have a question.
It would be incredibly boring. Yes.
I have a question. So and I'm going to give like an example from my own life to add to my question, but like what makes you label the experiences that you've had as like ghosts or paranormal instead of like when I was a child, when I was falling asleep, I would hear people saying my name. And when I grew older and I learned about Christianity, I interpreted that past experience that I had as like either God or angels were trying to talk to me when I was little. And then when I left Christianity, the way that I would probably explain it now is I was probably dreaming because it was always like at night when I was going to sleep, and it was probably like the state when I was just like falling asleep and I thought I was still awake. So that's how I'd probably explain the experience now, unless I had some like another experience and some good reason to label it as like angels or ghosts or supernatural beings trying to interact with me. Like what convinces you that these have been paranormal experiences instead of like dreams or I don't know, just being like hyper alert at night, kind of spooked out and just interpreting things a certain way?
That's a really good question. It sort of loops back to my childhood. Children are the most susceptible to being contacted because they haven't learned to filter out things that aren't really considered to be acceptable. So I was a kid when this first happened, and my mother was Catholic. So I was scared. I didn't know what it was about. I had no idea. I just knew that there was somebody talking to me, someone singing to me, it's soothing me. We were going through sort of a traumatic experience at that time. So my mother explained it to me as being my guardian angel. And that was the first experience. And then it kept happening. And it also happened to other people in my house. So how I came to believe actually was through a number of ways. I didn't talk about it for a long time because people look at you. I grew up in a small town in Pennsylvania, and people sort of look at you like you're crazy back in the 70s, So So taking the information that was given to me psychically, or actually through conversation, and proving it. Taking, they would give me a certain piece of information and I wouldn't tell anybody else, but I would go about proving to find out that information was true or not. So a lot of it was experience, and then just belief. After a while, you start to trust yourself. That's a really big question that a lot of people ask. Is like, well, how do you know you're not dreaming? Well, because I was in the middle of watching a TV show and I was sitting up and I was wide awake. So yeah, I'm not dreaming. I'm not sleeping.
So you kind of think that as a lot of people get older, they have a bias where they're closed off to paranormal experiences, but because you were a child, you were open to that, and now you wouldn't say you have a bias towards interpreting things as a paranormal experience rather than more natural explanations, I would say, or like more less phenomenal. I don't know how to put it right now.
I know what you mean. I tend to look at all the evidence, and I'm very objective. So I'll look at all of the evidence and decide whether it is, paranormal, or is something else. We had a ghost hunting group here for a while, and we had this one girl in the group, and everyone loved to take pictures. And, you've probably seen pictures of orbs and different things, unexplained things. Well, this girl, every time she took a picture of something that had a light, it would leave a light trail on the picture. Mm-hmm. And every time she had something with a squiggle or a light trail, she swore it was a ghost. So we just started calling her Squiggle Girl, because she had like all these little squiggles and things, and that was very easily proven to not be paranormal.
All right.
Yeah. Well, because, have you ever heard of the Barnum effect at all?
No, what is that?
It's a psychological phenomenon where basically if people are given vague information, a lot of times they'll fill it in with personal specifics. So an example of this would be when I was in college, my professor divvied out all of our horoscopes to us according to our birthdays. And in reality, the horoscope was super vague, and the same one was given to everyone, but nobody was told that. So we all thought that we had gotten a personal horoscope, and we all thought that it was pretty amazing until we found out that it was actually very vague and general information you could say about basically any person. And because of the Barnum effect, we filled in the vagueness with personal specifics, like, oh, this is definitely about me because of such and such and such a reason. So I find a lot of the time it's the same kind of thing with those experiences where people see a light or an orb that they can't explain, and they very much, want hope or mystery or meaning, and so they kind of fill in this vague information with personal specifics in that way, kind of like the squiggle girl you're talking about.
Very true.
Yeah
Right. And that's how you can that's also how you can spot a fake a mile away. When I used to do readings, I used to do them over the phone, and the person would come on the phone and I'd say, I don't want to know anything. I don't want any information, but you need to talk to me so I can sort of get a connection with you. I'm like, what's the weather like? Do you have a pet? Because when people start asking questions, it leads the event, and that's absolutely what you don't want. And I find a lot of people who try and explain away their experiences, realize later that perhaps they really weren't true. So I think it's important to have proof, whatever
I
that
agree.
means to you. And and I've been doing this a really long time, so over 40 years. So I know when to trust myself and when to kind of question it.
Yeah.
And I also have people that I go to and say, talk to me about this.
Hey, Pamela, so you said you do readings over the phone, and that made my ears perk up because we've spoken to psychics before, but they've always insisted on in-person. I don't want to put you on the spot, and it doesn't have to be now, but is there, would you by any chance provide a reading to somebody associated with this show at some point?
Sure.
Okay.
It is a different animal reading to someone over the phone than it is in
I
person.
understand. I understand, and just know that this comes from a place of respect. Like, I understand that that's your your craft, essentially. But yeah, that's just not an experience that I've ever had before. So, like I said, we actually do have a lot of callers here. Our producer's letting us know that he wants us to move on to the next one.
I know,
Not that
'cause
we're
I
not that
was-
we're bored with you, but just because we have a lot of people who we need to get to tonight.
I know, because I have like a million more questions. So hopefully you call back another week.
Okay, I will do that.
But yeah, I'm going to be hosting next week. I know Autumn's going to be on here again at some point. Yeah, we'd love to hear back from you.
Okay.
8 Eastern, 7 Central. All right, perfect. We hope to hear from you again. Thank you, Pamela.
Okay. Thanks so much. Okay, bye-bye.
All right, take care. All right, well, that was awesome.
Yeah, that was super fun. I wanted to keep going, but I know we have a show to do. So
Yeah, I know. We probably could have spent a good, another 25 minutes on Pamela at least.
I know.
Let's go ahead and Melissa's been waiting for a while, and I know she's been waiting for even longer than it says because her call dropped, unfortunately, at the beginning of the show. Melissa, thank you so much for calling in. You are on with Autumn and Martin.
Hi, thank you. Yeah,
Oh,
let me get my
hello.
eyes on here, my glasses. I have to wear reading glasses to see what I'm doing.
I already love your
Okay,
energy.
So, I went to Tombstone, Arizona. I think I turned like 14, I think either that day or day before, something like that. But anyway, my family and I went there as a family vacation. Didn't exactly expect anything to happen. Well, yeah, no, just my luck. Yeah, things happen. And we know Tombstone to be the paranormal nexus of Arizona. That place has, I think, 3 or 4 portals, I want to say.
What's a portal?
Well,
Sorry, you're just kind of like
portal
using words I'm not familiar with here.
oh, okay, I'm sorry. Portal is basically where energy comes in and out from different dimensions. And basically, I had gone in, they closed the door behind us, and I kind of, took a deep breath and assessed my surroundings, if you will, and things kind of started to happen.
Where, just a couple details real quick. You said they closed the door behind you. Is that the door to the portal, or is that a physical door?
No, that's the physical door to the room that divides the gift shop from the actual rest of the facility.
There's a
And-
portal, like a portal between dimensions that has a gift
no,
shop?
No. Well, there are portals to other dimensions, yes.
Okay.
But that's not what I'm talking about right now.
Okay.
There's
Okay.
a door that divides the gift shop from the rest of the facility.
What was the
Okay.
facility?
And at the birdcage.
Okay. Okay, continue.
So basically, I walk in, I take a deep breath, start to assess my surroundings. I touch the bar, and I start hearing glasses being wiped down, bottles clinking together, things being moved behind the bar. Nobody there, but I'm hearing it, with my own physical ears. I'm hearing this, and I'm going, what the heck? And then I start hearing someone come up behind me. And I hear a voice. This is very up high in his nose, very nasally. Ma'am, can I show you a good time? No. It's Ike Clanton. He has a very up in his nose, very high sinusy voice, if you will.
Okay.
And I said, no, thank you. I'm fine. I'm with my family. I'll thank you to let me be. And, well, he starts pestering me, and I keep telling him, no, thank you, but please go away. And
Sorry,
to my
is
right, I'd say,
this somebody that you're seeing
What?
or just interacting with audibly?
no, I was actually interacting with, I heard him. I did not physically see him. at
Okay.
that time.
Okay. Just
Okay.
trying to make sure I'm on
then-
the same page.
Yeah. No, and then things get even weirder. Okay, about 100 feet to my right, I hear a group of men come up maybe about 100 feet from me, I'd say. And this big man with this low, rolly, grumbly, down in his diaphragm, down in his belly voice, goes, "Ma'am, is that bothering you?" I goes, "No, Wyatt, I'm fine, thank you. I'll let you know if I need your help." And then all of a sudden things get physical, and I mean physical. Ike grabs me around my waist, and I feel something on my temple, and I hear the cocking back of a revolver. I'm going, uh-oh. I realize at that point I'm in trouble. I mean, I'm in trouble. I started praying, praying everything I could think of. It didn't do much good. All of a sudden I hear that same group of men, and I hear guns being cocked back, and he goes, "Ike, drop the gun." He goes, "Oh, but Wyatt, I was just trying to show the lady a good time." And second time he goes, "Ike, drop the damn gun." Sorry, FCC, that's the way it went.
Oh, we don't care if you
So
swear here. This is YouTube. You're allowed to swear.
Okay, and Ike drops the gun. I run hell for leather, of course, and all of a sudden behind me, over where I was being held captive, I swear to you, I heard gunfire, and I mean bam, 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 behind me, and you smell the gun smoke in the air. And I'm going, okay, no, I'm out of here. Bye-bye, and I run for where my dad is over on the stage, and by that time I'm winded, and I'm going, like that, kind of out of breath, and trying to figure out what just happened. And he goes, "Melissa, what's wrong? Calm down. I go, and I'm pointing over to where I was held captive. I explained to him what happened. "You mean you were?" I go, yeah. He goes, "Well, they can't hurt you." I go, no, someone just tried to kill me. And I was...
Wow, it's amazing this place is still open to the public. Wait, how old were you?
Yeah, 14. I didn't tell anybody until I was 21.
Wait, didn't you say you went over to your husband?
No, my dad.
Oh, okay. I thought I heard you say husband. My mistake.
No, my dad. Okay,
But you didn't tell your
parents
dad?
and my sister were with me, but they were off in different parts of the building, okay? They were off in different parts of the building, and I reached my dad first, because, little girls always go to their dad. Big male person that can protect them, And I'm just going, I'm freaked out because what the hell just happened, And, gosh, finally when I caught my breath, I got up the courage to go back to where all that just happened. And I'm going, okay, I'm still smelling gun smoke. What the hell was that?
And nobody else smelled the gun smoke?
No one else but me encountered this.
So
how did you know at 14
yeah,
what gun smoke smelled like?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Because I had been around like Civil War reenactments. I had been around Western stuff all my life to that point. I knew what it was. I'd been around firearms most of my life, so that was no mistake as to what that was.
And just making sure...
You just kind of catch on.
Right. Well, if it was gunfire in the same room as you, your ears would have been ringing.
Oh, yeah. No, they were ringing. I guarantee you.
Wow, that's incredible.
Ringing. Oh, yeah.
Just making sure we're talking about the same thing, because I maybe missed it in the intro. I don't know if I lost a connection or something on my end. But we're talking about the Birdcage Theater, right?
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure. I was looking it up in the background. Yeah, I really want to go there next time I'm in Tucson, which I don't know when I will be, but I'm definitely going to make an appearance there and see what happens.
If you're in Arizona, I'll meet you there. You're going to meet Wyatt Earp, Ike Clanton. You're going to meet Doc Holliday. You're going to meet a lot of these characters, and most of them are my blood relations.
Melissa, if that happens, I will buy you a drink.
I don't actually drink sarsaparilla.
I will buy you an orange juice then. A glass of milk, whatever you want.
Sarsaparilla.
A Shirley Temple.
Sarsaparilla. Love it.
It's like a Missouri Mule.
All right.
It's just like a Missouri Mule, I'll tell you. But you know what? I found out later on through family heritage studies, all these people that I encountered there are actually my blood cousins. Yeah, go figure. That's the happy ending part of it.
That's fascinating. That is.
But,
wait, so who?
Yeah.
Give me a couple names again. Wyatt Earp. Who else?
Wyatt Earp, Morgan Earp, Baxter Earp, Doc Holliday, Bat Masterson, Curly Bill Brocious, Ike Clanton, and his entire family. Well, the Clantons are actually more like adoptees to another line, but anyway, they're all.
Wait, so you said you're related to those people? Because
yes,
okay, well,
yeah.
Wyatt Earp. Hold on, Wyatt Earp and Doc Holliday are not related to each other. So how could they both be related to you?
Yes, they are. Yes,
how,
they are.
Okay, what's the connection? Because I'd love to look into it.
The connection is, and I have papers proving this. I can actually email them to you.
Yeah, send them to Ethan.
Doc is off. Okay, Doc is off. John Wesley Hardin, who is my biological 14th cousin, and
14th cousin.
So he's, huh?
Sorry, just making sure I heard 14th cousin. Is that right?
14th cousin, yes. My 14th cousin is John Wesley Hardin, and Doc is his first cousin. So they're related by me that way. And then Wyatt and his men are, well, his brothers, are my 9th biological cousin.
Through an
And
opposite
then
connection of the family?
Bat Masterson is my 10th cousin. I have all of this written down on paper anyway.
I have a couple of questions.
Go ahead.
Okay, so you said that you didn't tell anyone about this until you were 21. When did you find out about this, like, family heritage or, like, family connection? And did you tell somebody about the names? Did you tell people about the names before you found out you were related?
I was like 22. I didn't find out the biological connections until I was like 22.
Okay. And were you telling people about the names you were hearing before you found out this information? Or in retrospect, do you feel like you could have...
I knew who they were because I'd seen photos of them. I had heard, you know, their, I guess, vocal essence before, you know, like in movies and stuff. So I kind of made the connection. I'd watched movies about them religiously. I have the movie Tombstone on disc.
Wait, hold on. Sorry. So the voices in the movies matched with the voices of the actual people?
Oh, yeah. Yes.
How is that possible? We don't have the voices of the people recorded. So there's no way that we could know that.
I just knew. It was like something I felt, you know?
I'm sorry, I don't find that to be a credible source.
I don't know how exactly to explain it, but...
It sounds like confirmation bias to me.
No, it's not.
Because confirmation bias is a feeling that you're right with no explanation, most of the time at least.
Well, basically, when I found out that I was actually biologically related to these people, I made the connection. I'm going, okay, so this is what they sound like. This is what they actually did in life, and here's how they're connected to me. That's really cool. And I'd actually encountered them. Wow.
I mean, how
That's
do
a
you
lot of
know-
claims. That is a lot of claims all at once.
What makes you think that you
Okay,
didn't
but-
have? Okay, I have a question. Sorry. What
Okay.
makes you think that you?
basically, it was hard for me to really explain to others. But when I finally wrote it down, wrote my book, and had everything else come along, age 21, 22, I'm like, okay, now I can connect it, and now I have the paperwork to prove that, and everything else connects. It's
Okay,
really
what makes
cool.
you think that you didn't just have a scary experience when you were 14 that you couldn't explain, and you took a fascination with this family history that you had and kind of filled in the information? Like, what makes you think for sure this is exactly what happened? Because besides your personal anecdotal evidence, there isn't much evidence to say that any of this happened, right? So, I guess it's like, what makes you
Well, I
think?
didn't have any video cameras. I didn't have any audio recording equipment with me at the time, and they didn't
Right.
make those back then.
Right, exactly. I'm
So there was
not
no
saying.
way I could have.
Yeah, I'm not saying you're lying or that you should have
No, I'm not.
more evidence, but I'm saying you maybe should have more evidence before you say this is for sure what happened. Like, you can say I had a scary experience. I think this
Well,
could
I'm
have
going to be
been.
going back. I'm going to be going back pretty soon, probably either late this year or early next. I have some film work I've got to do for my book. I'm going to record everything that I encounter.
Please do.
Awesome.
Everything.
We're very excited to see the results of that.
Yeah, I'm in San Diego. I'm not too
And I
far
wish you
off,
guys-
so
I would
let
love
me
for
know
you
when you're
guys-
going.
Yeah, I would love for you guys to actually go with me, because I'm also going to New Mexico, and every time I go, I have encounters with Billy the Kid. And that's another story.
I lived in New Mexico for 8 years and can report 0 supernatural encounters. What city are you going to?
I'm actually going to Las Cruces. I'm going to Mesilla. I'm going to Lincoln. I'm going to
Okay.
Santa Fe, Albuquerque.
And you have encounters in
Taos,
all of those places?
all of them. Every one of them.
Fascinating. I wish I was still there. We could, go find ghosts together. That being said, Melissa, unfortunately, we do have to wrap up the call. We have
Okay.
5 callers on hold. I can count. And we hopefully will get to all of them tonight. So again, that being said, thank you so much for calling. We appreciate it. As usual, like any forward any sources you have, if you want to talk about them again next time you're on, over to Ethan. He'll make sure to, and I can't promise we'll review everything, but we're curious to see what you have.
Oh, no worries.
All right,
Okay,
cool.
talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
All right, have a great night.
Can I just, before we take the next call, can I just
Yeah.
define confirmation bias just a little bit differently than you did? Because
That was a sloppy definition.
Okay, yeah, because just for our audience's sake, I would say confirmation bias is focusing on the information that confirms what you believe and ignoring the information against it. And what you were talking about sounds more a little bit closer to self-serving bias, which is like, I know this happened, I trust myself.
Right.
Self-serving bias rather than confirmation bias. Just a small distinction.
No,
Not
thank
to
you
be
for
nitpicky.
No, not nitpicky at all. Thank you for clearing that up. Yeah, that was just me throwing words around without really thinking about them first. I do that sometimes.
Start thinking, Martin. We're very popular tonight, so we got to get going.
How many viewers do we have? I'm not even looking at the live stream.
I don't know.
Okay. Well, Ethan will maybe tell us in the chat. All right. Next up, we're going to talk to CJ. CJ's here to talk about flat Earth and Bible stuff. CJ, go ahead and fill us in as to your topic tonight.
Yeah, Ethan asked me to come on.
Yeah, we
So,
really
here's
appreciate
my
you calling.
Yeah, no problem. What questions does he have? Because, I want to know what he wants to know. I'm here to
Well-
answer questions.
We
Okay.
probably have questions for you.
Yeah,
We're the hosts tonight.
I was just
Yeah,
giving
what
you a-
questions do you guys have?
Yeah, Autumn, go ahead and open up the
Yeah,
Okay.
convo.
I'm Bible and
Well-
flat earther.
Yeah, so do you have a claim that you would like to, a specific claim that you would like to explore? Like you think the Earth is flat? Is that a claim you,
Yeah.
or would you rather talk about the Bible tonight? You get to choose because you called in. So we can talk about the Bible.
I just want to know whatever
Well, let's just
questions you guys have about the Bible or anything. Just ask.
Okay, let's just pick one tonight, though. So do you want to go with Christianity is true and the Bible is inerrant or something like that? Or do you want to go with the earth is flat? Let's pick one claim just for the sake of brevity.
Okay, we'll start off with the Bible, I guess, and basically religion, because it's not just that the Bible is true; it's that religious texts are pretty much telling the truth.
All religious texts or just the Bible?
The Bible and other ancient Hebraic texts, even some Aramaic texts, and Norse mythology.
So the
Greek is also
Quran?
telling the truth. The Quran is a mixture of truth and lies, basically. But,
And how do you determine
the
that?
Bible is basically telling the truth. So.
How do you determine that the Bible is telling the truth, but the Quran is only sort of telling the truth? What makes you determine the difference between those?
Because there's a giant snake circling the earth.
Okay, what's your evidence for that?
Ethan, do you still have the pictures?
Ethan is
Ethan's
not on
on
tonight.
right now.
Oh, okay. Well, if anyone wants to look at the pictures, you could just go on YouTube. There's a giant snake that circles the earth where when atheists die, they basically get put inside there to be tortured. And basically you get burned in fire, and you basically circle the damn thing, basically until the end.
That's fantastic. Wait, do you think that the Christian God is a loving God?
Yes, beyond loving. But
So
if you
a
wanna,
loving God would do that? Wait, hold on. A loving God would do that? To burn
Yeah.
me and Autumn and Ethan for eternity? That's
Oh, there's
Yeah.
that.
what are
picture.
we looking at here? I see
Okay.
a
It's-
photo.
It's
Yeah,
something that could look like a snake head, but it also looks like something I'd see at the preschools I've worked at, just a big smear on the.
it looks
Look,
like
listen to me. I'm not trying to prove anything to you guys. I'm going to let you guys go to outer darkness and be tortured. But
we're going to be tortured. We're going to be tortured by your loving God. That sounds fantastic and not at all contradictory.
But yeah, if anyone wants to see the snake, just type this in on YouTube. You guys know Matt Dillahunty from Atheist Experience?
Yes,
I've heard of him.
friend of mine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mine as well.
Type this in on YouTube. Matt Dillahunty will be placed in outer darkness. You should see.
No,
as the
I
video.
think I'm good. I think I've encountered that side of YouTube a little bit too much, let's say.
So do
So-
you think that he would deserve to go to outer darkness? And do you think we deserve to go to
Well-
outer darkness?
Yeah, maybe let's not talk about Matt when Matt's not on.
Yeah.
Oh, do you think? Oh, well, it depends. Are you repentant of all the horrible things you've done in life?
What horrible things have I done in life?
I don't know. God does, but you're a sinner. Everyone does bad things in life, so you're accountable.
I take
I mean,
accountability. Wait,
yeah.
hold on. I
Sorry.
take accountability for the harmful actions that I've done in my life, and I would say taking accountability, being apologetic, making amends. Those are ways that I try to function well with others. But I wouldn't say that I have like inerrant sin that I was born with. I think that is a myth that comes from like the Bronze Age.
Okay, then you will be put inside the serpent that circles the earth, and you will be placed
But
in there
you-
to be tortured.
You don't have any good evidence for that other than a picture.
It's not even a good picture. It
yeah,
looks
that's-
very
that's from the
pixelated.
US Navy. Yeah,
What was
picture
that?
from the U.S. Navy. It's not from me. That's from them. So I'm not. It's not like I'm just like, oh, I took a picture because I can. No, that's from the
Well-
U.S. Navy.
But you
Okay,
have
but-
your
but-
interpretation of that picture.
So
If the picture
where
came
was
from the
the-
Navy, it doesn't matter if the picture came from the Navy. Your interpretation is that that's a snake or outer darkness or something like that. And you have to have evidence to back up your interpretation of that picture because you're the one making the claim right now, not the U.S. Navy. I'll
Yeah.
talk to them later.
Yeah, it's a giant body. It's a dead body. My Christ killed it and now uses its body as a place of torment for atheists.
But
That's a
you
giant
just-
body. That thing is real.
so-
It's alive.
Let me ask you something because I'm really curious. How do you know this? Other than, I'm not talking about the snake, I'm talking about the fact that your Christ killed it.
Oh, because right after Ragnarok happened, God floods the earth. And
Right after what?
Mythology, that snake is from Norse mythology. And it's also you can read about this in the Bible. You can read about Yggdrasil in the Bible, and you can read about Jormak, or Jormunga, however you want to call it. But everyone just calls him Jormak. The snake is called Jormak. He killed it in the flood. He drowned it, buried it in dirt and water, and it circles the earth. And that's how he placed it. Okay, that thing was alive.
That doesn't sound like anything that I've ever experienced in my entire life. And while I know that, you know, my life is not the end all be all of experiences, that's quite a claim. So how do Norse mythology, or how does Norse mythology and the Bible exist simultaneously? Don't they contradict each other?
No, they go perfectly well together, honestly. Because Yggdrasil is in the Bible.
Because who is in the Bible?
Yggdrasil is in the Bible. Yeah, you know what Yggdrasil is?
I don't know who that is. I'm sorry.
Yggdrasil is a giant tree that was on the earth that reached all the way up to the dome. There was a giant tree on the earth that reached up to the dome. It got cut down. I have a picture of it. So, you know, it got cut down, and I could show you, how big the leaves. The leaves are 1,500 feet long. The tree trunks and the roots of the tree, they're all over the earth. I could show that to you also.
I would love to see any and all evidence. I don't have time to review anything else. Again, Ethan's putting up a photo of a drawing right now, and that's a great drawing. I've seen plenty of drawings. That doesn't make them real. As far as the Navy photo goes, I mean, that looked like a coastline to me that, again, had been pixelated and slightly distorted. I saw something that looked like, it looked like if it was a cloud, it'd be one of those clouds that looks like a snake. But it wasn't a cloud, it was a landmass. You can pretty clearly see in that photo it's not a snake.
Yeah, and there's something called priming, where if you tell somebody that there is a snake in a photo, then their brains are going to look for something that looks like a snake. But if you just showed them the photo right out, they might come up with varying interpretations of what the photo could be. So if you didn't say, hey, you're going to see a snake, you would probably get a lot of different answers from a lot of different people on what the image is portraying.
I told you, I'm not trying to prove anything to you guys. I'm just going to show you the truth.
But you don't have good evidence to call it the truth, which is concerning.
Yeah, we're not saying that you're not proving it. We're just saying that we don't accept it as true because you're saying it's true. Just because somebody says something is never a good reason to accept it as true. What we look for is things that correspond with reality. And I've looked up in the sky with a telescope many times in my childhood, and I've never seen a snake. Mm-hmm. I've seen plenty of things, though, so why can't I see the snake?
Well, yeah, you have to go high up into the air and look down to see.
Where do you think the stars are? Wait, are the stars closer than the snake?
The stars are literally a few miles above us. That's it.
No, they're not. Where do you think rockets go?
Oh, no, they don't go anywhere. They just fly off sideways and go into the ocean.
What?
There's pictures
That's
of this.
fascinating. No, what? Wow. Okay. Amazing how we started with the Bible, yet we ended up on flat Earth, because that, I think, is the more easily debunkable claim here. Have you ever heard of Professor Dave Explains?
Oh yeah, he's an idiot. I made a video about him a long time ago. He was wrong.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He's an idiot. He's just a professor. That's fine. Where can I find your content if you made a video about him? I would love to go.
No, it's gone. YouTube bans my. I made a new channel, but YouTube constantly deletes my channel because I promote the truth. So
no,
or maybe it's because of disinformation.
What happened?
It might be because of disinformation, not because it's the truth.
There's a reason why we don't. There's a reason why we don't allow people to teach certain things in school, such as Holocaust deniers, for example, because those conclusions lead to other conclusions that lead to, dangerous behavior, essentially. Now, flat Earth, I don't think necessarily leads to dangerous behavior, so I'm not going to say that, but I can't wrap my mind around
The snake thing
Yeah,
is definitely fear mongering. I would say that's pretty dangerous.
Ethan, show them the pictures. I
We
sent
saw.
them to you, okay?
Yeah, he put up your pictures.
He sent more pictures.
Which
What?
way, though?
Yeah, I have another perspective on that photo. Yeah. That picture of that's a coastline that you can see through the water, like, okay. It's not a snake, dude. I don't know how else to say it. It's not a snake. And the fact that you think that your God can both be loving and throw, two otherwise delightful people like Autumn and myself up to some giant creature that's going to torture us forever, like how is that not fucked up in your head? I'm not saying you're fucked up, to be clear, but how does that thought not, connect?
Seem fucked up, maybe.
Seem dissonant.
We have to answer the question. Are you a good person?
I like to think of myself as a good person. Yeah, I'm the type of guy who, if I see you changing a tire, I will go change that tire for you, because that's just, I don't mind spending the 10 minutes to help somebody out.
Okay, so you consider yourself a good person. All right.
Yeah. I actively try to be here's the thing, I actively try to be a good person. It's not like I consider myself a good person today and therefore I will continue to be good forever. It's that I make conscious decisions to do good things for others. That's what I think being a good person is.
Okay, have you ever done anything bad?
Yes.
Okay,
By
then
bad, do
you're
you
a
mean
bad
cause
person.
harm?
Wait, so a good person can never do bad things, but a bad...
Hello?
Sorry, my internet's garbage. Sorry about that.
Repeat a good person. What?
Yeah. So what? Thank you. What I was trying to say was, before the internet defeated me, I got canceled. No. What I was trying to say was, if good people can't do bad things, why is it that bad people can do good things and don't then become good? Like, why does it only work one way?
No, because here, I'll give an example. I was an atheist. I did bad things throughout my life. I've stolen, I've robbed, I've hurt people.
Okay, I've never stolen, robbed, or physically harmed anyone. That's for sure. So when I say I've done bad things, I think we're talking about different levels of bad. Because I've never committed anything that could be considered property crime or assault or anything like that.
You ever got into a fight?
No, absolutely not. I fight with my words, my friend. Especially as a guy. What's that supposed to mean?
Yeah, guys are when they're younger, they handle things more with fighting. Even though
I think that's
a whole nother thing.
Oh wow.
But,
hey,
yeah,
we could go on about that, my friend. You're making some broad generalizations. Hey, when you paint with a big broad brush like that, you get paint on everybody, not just yourself. So how about you talk about how you are as a man, and I'll talk about how I am as a man, and Autumn can talk about how she is as a woman, instead of you talking about how Autumn is as a woman, because I don't like that.
Oh no, I'm a terrible person. I'm a sinner. I'm evil.
So why the fuck should we listen to you when we're... No, okay, I'm muting you. If you're a terrible person, why should we talk to you when we're both telling you the things that we're doing to try to make sure that we're good people? Like, why do we even have to acknowledge you? You are unmuted now.
Yeah. sorry. No, it's just the fact that I can't look at you guys as good, because I walk around and I see it everywhere I go. People like to act like they're good, but I'm sorry, I just don't see it. I don't see it anymore.
Okay, do you know what?
I walk around and people try and act like they're
that's
all
on
nice
you.
and
That's on you, bud. That's on you. That's not on us.
so
That's on you.
God says everyone's a sinner and everyone's a lie. Everyone's, basically.
No, not everyone's a sinner or a liar or a cheater. No, holy fuck, I'm muting you, because you do not get to come and paint all of humanity with the same paintbrush. You admitted that you've stolen, lied, and cheated. Don't come to me and tell me that just because you've done it, we've all done it too. Because that is on you, my friend. I think we're done here, Autumn, unless you have anything else you want to say. Sorry, I got kind of heated there.
No, I'll save it for other calls. It's fine.
Okay, well, let's go ahead and stop talking to CJ. Have a great evening. I hope you improve your morality.
Before you take the next call, we got to read some super chats. So I've got one from Keith Heath. He says, "I am less broke this week. I have some money. Thank you so much. No questions this week, just money. But I have 200 characters. I wonder what would be a good thing to say. I know. Let me tell you about this one. Ethan, I'm not seeing the rest of it.
No, I think that's the point. It cuts off at the 200 characters, and he's not able to finish the thought. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well,
if I know Keith, that's what he meant.
Thanks for the money.
And then one more super chat from Amit. I hope I'm saying that right. Wait, there's a snake circling the flat Earth? That's an excellent point. I wish we had said something about that.
I was answering that while you guys were talking.
Oh, were you? I'm sorry.
Technically circle over something flat. So if we're
okay.
being charitable, which I don't think we necessarily should be, but if we're being charitable here.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry if I kind of talked over you a little bit there, Autumn. That just gets me fired up when people come in and they're like, I'm a bad person, therefore everybody is. Because that's bullshit.
Yeah, he probably needed to be yelled at. I was going to go the more like sciencey psychology route, but I'm glad that you took it that direction. So we'll get sciencey hopefully on some other calls here.
Yeah, I hope so. Let's see. We have a good chunk of time left here. Or do you have Call-In Studio open? Or no, Autumn?
Me? Oh, yeah. I don't. I haven't.
Okay, no.
That top secret info yet. So.
Okay, no worries. I was just going to throw it to you to pick the next one, but we will get that set up at some point.
I like how it was
Let's see.
As if you were talking to anybody. There's nobody else here, so I'm like, no.
You're fine. There's always the producer lurking, above us, like a god. Just kidding. Yeah. I'm just seeing how much shit I can talk about Ethan tonight. Ethan, I love you. All right, well, let's talk to Jeremiah in Alabama.
Perf.
All right, Jeremiah. Hey, yeah, go ahead and I'm not going to read the note here because I don't want to misrepresent what you're saying. So go ahead and introduce your topic for us.
Okay, so this is probably the most the least interesting topic tonight, but I just wanted to say that so the opioid epidemic is a conspiracy, or at least it's the most substantiated conspiracy we've heard tonight. But I wanted to point out that it seems to me that one of the people or groups of people who were complicit in it don't seem to be being required to they're not being pursued. It wasn't just the drug companies that engaged in a conspiracy to put their own profit ahead of the health of individuals, but it was also anybody who engaged in the distribution, including possibly like pharmacists and doctors. And I don't think that's right. I know they're not done yet, but it's definitely a conspiracy, right?
Can you define conspiracy for us?
In this context, to be clear, right?
Well, in general, it's anytime two or more people can plan together to either defraud people or break the law.
Okay.
Or hurt people or defraud or break the law.
So even like scam artists, like on the street or something, I don't know what they would be doing. I can't think of a specific example, but like
selling fake Rolexes.
Yeah, or MLMs, like, is that a conspiracy? Because they know that, like, the people they recruit are never going to make any money, but they tell them that they are? Would you define those kinds of things as conspiracies?
I don't know if you could. So I know I could weed out the person on the street because, like a scam artist, because they are targeting an individual or an individual group at least, whereas I would say a conspiracy normally is more of a function of itself, like they function for their own profit and not necessarily target an individual. Of course, I guess a conspiracy could target an individual instead of a group, but I would say that MLMs and pyramid schemes are a type of conspiracy, probably a subset.
Okay. Just wanted to be clear on what what we're exactly talking about here. Like, so you don't think it's like the government was working with a bunch of doctors to make a lot of the American public addicted to opioids, or you think it was like a government conspiracy, or like what kind? It was like, are there people that? Sorry, go ahead.
I don't think I don't know of any time that I could say the government did X or the government did Y. So I don't like that term. It's just too large an institution to blame or point out or make claims specifically about. But I could say the FDA overlooked it. There may be people inside it who were complicit. I don't think the entire FDA is to blame, but somehow I doubt that they didn't see this coming at all. The question is did they act as soon as they could have, and what level they could have acted at, what time,
right.
How soon, and how effectively.
So one of the things that I look for when assessing whether or not something is a conspiracy is if there's either a sole person or a small ruling group that's like kind of calling the shots. Just to kind of connect the dots here, are you saying that the FDA person is in league with the person who's, pushing the doctors to sell it? Like who is pulling the strings here in your mind?
I would say that the drug manufacturers are the puppet masters. They the drugs originate with them, the opioids, but they can't get them to the customers without people downstream. And when they
right, well, I mean, they can't just sell it over the counter. Yeah, they need the prescription network to distribute it. Yeah.
Right, but when they engage in behaviors that encourage anyone downstream to facilitate the patients taking these drugs for any reason other than their own personal health,
right,
or particularly to enrich others, then that violates the entire purpose of healthcare and is in fact engaging in, for-profit activity at the expense.
Well, wait, the healthcare,
even if it's just a possible expense.
We're talking about America, right?
Yes,
because that's where the
and I have very little experience.
Well, the healthcare and I'm not justifying this. I'm not saying this is how I want it to be, but right now the healthcare system is a for-profit industry. A lot of things that you're describing could also be explained through the profit motive in regard to opioid addiction and distribution. I would not personally, because again, I think we're a lot more in agreement than we were when I read the note. That's why I wanted you to explain it before I made any assumptions. But I don't see it as a top-down conspiracy. I see it as everybody wants a bigger piece of the pie. So they're all kind of working together without being motivated to by an outside source, because the profit motive is what's motivating them to do this. Does that make sense how I've explained it?
Well, kind of, except that if you look at individuals in the healthcare, in any healthcare field, private pharmacies, hospital pharmacies, the doctors administering the prescriptions, and the drug producers. Mm-hmm. There's a lot more evidence that I have seen just recently, and I happen to have a very good friend who has a lot of education in the ins and outs of this, and there were doctors who came out of retirement for the sole purpose of running pill clinics where they just operate on a cash basis.
Right, they used their license. Yeah, they used their license to open the clinic, and then there might be other doctors working there, but they're doing it under the license of the one person, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. No, I know exactly what you're talking about.
But it's not like the drug manufacturers didn't know that was going on or couldn't know. And now it is possible that some doctors unknowingly participated, right? It's not like a pharmacist who happened to give the same person 3 different prescriptions for the same drug when they didn't need it was necessarily a part. Just like in MLMs, not
because
all
it's
people in the MLM have the intention of screwing people over for their own profit.
right, exactly. No, that's a great point, because the person at the bottom level selling the skincare product, I mean, yeah, they want to make money, but they also, they probably enjoy talking about the skincare product, whether or not, they're selling it. Whereas
they're like a victim that victimizes other victims. Kind of. Oh no, I don't want to get off topic. But you're right. Like
the cycle of abuse.
Yeah, the lines are blurred with MLMs because it's like it's predatory. When you're at the bottom, you're a victim, and then at what point when you work your way up the chain does the victim become the I don't want to say abuser, there's a better word for it, like
complicit in the abuse, maybe?
Yeah.
Or complicit in the execution of the abuse.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask too, like, what differentiates someone from being a puppet master from someone just being greedy? I feel like you kind of asked a similar question earlier, but like, how do we know that someone's being a puppet master instead of just being greedy and being like, well, this works in my favor, I'm going to keep this money?
I don't think that there's a black and white answer to that, but it's certainly confusing. But I would say that obviously when you look at the places that were operating on cash bases, those are in the red. They're definitely bad things that had no intent of helping anyone but just make money. And I would also say that's probably another red flag, is when people put profit over the patient. The profit part is supposed to come because you help people, not at the expense of the patient. And the drug companies were specifically complicit in that they were offering kickbacks, as in the more you prescribe, the more benefits you have.
Oh, absolutely.
Rewards and that is absolutely, even if it was informal and not technically a violation, like they didn't qualify for legal action in some cases, that still doesn't make it ethical. And so I don't think that I don't think doctors should be able to benefit from the amount of, I don't think doctors should be able to receive compensation directly from the drug manufacturers based on anything other than outcomes, right?
I agree with you 100%
we're in
on
agreement
that.
there. They shouldn't be incentivized by money, for sure. Doctors should not be given money from drug companies. No.
If I can chime in with a quick little anecdote, just in affirmation of what you were saying about pharmacy companies. I used to manage a restaurant back when I lived in New Mexico, which I alluded to earlier. And we had a catering operation, and I was in charge of the marketing and then eventually the entire front of house, including catering. And where this is going is we had so many pharmacy clients. Like, oh my gosh, our pharma reps were our best clients. They would open up a rewards account like with the restaurant, and then that account would accrue points from the money they were spending from their personal business. So not only were they getting kickbacks like a free lunch when they delivered the catering, they were also getting a free lunch off of that free lunch. And then meanwhile, the hospitals, the ones who were receiving this, they were seeing this pharma rep as their best friend. And meanwhile, the pharma rep is there slinging drugs. They're literally handing out free samples sometimes of like new products and all sorts of branded merchandise, everything from pens to clipboards and all that. And it's the cash flow, man. It's a vicious cycle. It just keeps circulating between the hospitals, the pharma reps. I wouldn't personally brand it as a conspiracy. To me, it seems greedy.
Can I add an anecdote to that?
Oh, go ahead.
That a little. So my friend had to point it out to me that the patients are still suffering from this, right? And they're not suffering in the ways that are always obvious. Like a long time ago, I worked for a major retailer. A long time ago. It was 2006, right? It was after I can't remember the year, but it was after Hurricane Katrina hit Louisiana. And we went out there and we were busting our butts trying to get products to customers to get their life back together. And I aggravated a shoulder injury, and it was absolutely excruciating. I didn't sleep after the second night of no sleep because I was sitting upright in a chair. And even if I didn't move, I would get stabbing pains in my neck and shoulder. Like, I would prefer to be hit in the head with a shovel over feeling this pain.
That sounds terrible.
I was suicidal for days. And I went to the emergency room in Louisiana, and I hadn't slept in 2 nights. I was extremely fatigued and in absolute agony. The doctor asked me to rate my pain on a scale of 1 to 10. I think I said a 27. And I remember shaking, and I was cold because I couldn't eat. My stomach was just turning in a knot because I was in such pain. And he gave me ibuprofen, prescription ibuprofen, a lot of it. And I went back to the hotel and took, between then and the next night, I took the whole bottle. And it was
damn.
Week. It was supposed to be a week supply.
Yeah,
And,
that's a little too much.
But I could have died, and I wasn't trying to kill myself. I was trying to stop the pain. And like now,
and that's the thing, is people will pay anything to stop the pain, including potentially taking a drug that maybe they shouldn't be taking so much of, and again, as prescribed by a doctor. I don't want to come off as saying question your doctor's prescriptions, but at the same time, make sure that your medical treatment is actually helping you. That's the advice that I feel qualified to give, I guess. But I always say talk to your doctor, and if you don't think your doctor is giving you good advice, find a different doctor. But never try to be your own doctor, because that doesn't work. Not even doctors are allowed to do that.
No. I mean, I didn't even know at the time that taking too much ibuprofen was dangerous. I just wanted the pain to stop, and it wouldn't. And
too much of anything can be.
Get better treatment in a few days after I returned home, but the fact remains that, or in my opinion, I think there are a lot of people who are gonna get away with it, and those people, the most people who are most likely to get away with it are the lower level. Or mid-level, I should say, people who made hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars,
billions,
in these quote-unquote pain clinics and doctors who were prescribing the most and knew it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I remember seeing statistics that
I don't know how to hold them accountable, but I hope that we can find a way.
Well, I think it's got to be an assessment of how we handle healthcare in this country. I don't think that we can weed out the individual offenders so easily. It's got to be a kind of a more systemic change. But anyway, that being said, we're actually a lot more in agreement than I thought we'd be, Jeremiah. So that was a pleasant direction for this call. Again, I will dispute the use of the word conspiracy, but I absolutely believe that the opioid epidemic was encouraged by people who knew exactly how bad it was. And if that's a conspiracy to you, then it's a conspiracy. But again, thank you so much for calling in. We are
technically.
Sorry, we'll give you about 50. Yeah, go ahead. You can close us out.
Just because I'm so argumentative, I have to point out that opioid manufacturer Purdue Pharma LP pled guilty in November of 2020 to conspiracies to defraud the United States and violate the anti-kickback statute. So it is by definition a conspiracy legally.
Oh, I didn't know that was exactly how that case was worded. I knew they were found guilty of something. I didn't follow up on the details. Well, I might be eating my words here.
They pled guilty.
Gotcha.
They pled guilty. They weren't.
Or pled guilty. Right. All right. Well, thank you again, Jeremiah. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say to our caller, once conspiracy was defined, I was more on board as well, because it's like when people start saying conspiracy theory, it's like I don't know if it's a red flag that goes off for me, but at least like a yellow one. Like, okay, what are we talking about here? So once we got that defined, I think we were all pretty much on the same page.
I understand.
Okay, I'm gonna read. Thank you so much for calling.
Yeah, thank you, Jeremiah. Have a good night. All right, go ahead and catch us up on Super Chats, Autumn.
Yes. I'm going to read Secular Rarities chat that says, Autumn and Martin are killing it tonight, like always. Thank you so much,
Aw.
Secular Rarity.
Thank
very
you.
nice.
I really enjoy these because if you're not familiar with what I do, I'm speaking to the audience here mostly. I work behind the scenes on a lot of ACA productions, and it's nice to be in the driver's seat every once in a while. So it's fun.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah. All right, let's go ahead. Oh yeah, I was going to mention real quick. Ethan has a link that I'm hoping he's going to post in the YouTube chat to our Discord after party. So after we talk to our last two callers here, and yes, we will get to both of you shortly. Thank you so much for your patience. Be sure to go to Ethan's Discord, the YFNA Discord, and check out the after party where we will be fielding questions from the audience. I can probably commit to about 15 or 20 minutes. I'm not sure how much time Autumn has after we're done.
Probably about the same because I'm trying to get back on track with working out now that I'm vaccinated and restrictions are lifted. I'm trying to be healthy again. So
right, yeah. Alrighty. No, that's awesome that you got your vax. I'm 18 days past my second shot, so I'm, safe, or as safe can be.
Yay! Perfect.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk to Micheal here, who wants to talk about the historicity of the resurrection. Micheal, how are you doing tonight?
I'm good. How are you guys doing?
Good. You've been on hold for quite a while. I just want to say thank you so much for your patience. I'm sorry we couldn't get to you sooner. Go ahead and open up your topic for us.
No worries at all. Okay, sure. Just disclaimer. I did listen to all of your guys' previous calls on the show, and I know you guys probably know this, but just to put it out there, not all Christians think the same way.
I know that.
I'm really in agreement with everything that the other guy said.
Okay. No, I appreciate you making the disclaimer. We're going to assess you as you come to us. I will not leverage any judgment on previous callers on you as well.
I can empathize because I was a Christian who would often remind people of that too. Like, we're not all the same.
Yeah.
Yeah. On that vein of thought, actually, I am a recent-ish Christian. I used to be an atheist for 1.5 to 2 years, and the evidence that I intend to present this evening is part of at least what convinced me that the Christianity is true. Also for further context, but yeah, I think the resurrection is historical. I don't necessarily subscribe to mainstream Christian apologetics on this point. I found the concept of undesigned coincidences as popularized by William Paley centuries ago, actually.
Could you speak up just a tad, Micheal? Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Were you able to hear what I said, or should I?
I'm hearing you. It's just kind of hard to hear you, which I'm guessing the audience can't hear you very well either then.
Oh, really?
Yeah, just speak up
I don't know.
Yeah, if you can just speak a little louder, or maybe position whatever microphone you're using on your phone, just maybe move it a little closer to your mouth. It's not bad. It's just a little quiet.
Okay, I'll try and speak up a bit then. I'm actually close to get as of now.
Okay.
So yeah, as I was saying, I find the evidence, it's called undesigned coincidences. It was popularized by William Paley, actually a few centuries ago. And by chance, are either of you familiar with the concept of undesigned coincidences?
I'm not.
No.
Okay. So as far as I understand it, like if a police officer was interrogating two different witnesses, he would normally isolate them and then ask them questions and then review the testimony that they produced at a later time and compare them. And as far as I'm aware, if certain details that are rather casually inserted into the testimony tend to confirm or disconfirm the testimony of the other witness when they were isolated, then that should increase the confidence of the officer that the testimony that was produced was accurate, or decrease depending on whether or not the testimony confirms or disconfirms. I believe details like this can be found between the gospel accounts and also from the gospel accounts and external secular sources that would have been produced at the time. I'm prepared to give a couple examples, but I suppose if you have any questions about that right there, we can discuss that.
Well, my immediate response is that the Gospels conflict with each other. So I already feel like we have a problem there because the Gospels don't all have the same story. There's differences between them.
Okay. The first thing I would say is that I guess it would depend upon the nature of the distinction, because I believe it was legal scholar Thomas Starkey who said that the usual character of human testimony is substantial truth with circumstantial variety. So I think we should expect some differences, just because if it is eyewitness testimony, that's kind of how my understanding of it works. But I suppose if you have rather drastic contradictions, then that might perhaps cause me to revise my assessment. Could you provide an example or two?
Okay, so the nature of the places, the first thing that comes to mind is like Jesus carrying his own cross. I believe like every single gospel has a different account of who carried the cross. Not that detail in itself changes the gospel, right? Because if you're looking at the core meaning that the Christian is going to take away, it's that Jesus died for their sins. And so maybe who carried the cross is not important information to them. But if we're talking about an inerrant word of God and all-powerful God and all-knowing God who's... Okay, but if we're talking about... Are we talking about an all-powerful, all-knowing God who's able to communicate with his creation?
I believe so, yes.
So if we're looking at the extraordinary power of that claim, conflicting gospels kind of conflict with that claim. Because if we're talking about a God that could create all the cells in my body and all the complexity in the hemoglobin of my blood, just look up the hemoglobin of your blood and how complex it is. Why would it be that he could go into such detail in creating me, but when he's giving accounts of the thing that's supposed to save me, the thing that I'm supposed to believe in, there's conflicting stories?
So I would bracket theological pre-commitments when looking at these texts. I prefer to view them as historical documents like any other that would have been produced and see how they match up. So I'm not coming at this assuming that it has to be true. I'm just looking at the evidence that I would look at for any other source and seeing how it would compare, is my take.
Right, and you said you were an atheist, so you weren't assuming it was true, and then you were convinced that it's true through this process. So continue to elaborate on what you called in about. Remind me of the term again. You said
undesigned coincidences.
Thank you very much. Undesigned coincidences. So something about this convinced you that Christianity was true.
Yes, unfortunately. Everything, because I know you guys are going to want to move on, but this is a part of it, sure. So I can give an example then. So I'm sure you guys are familiar with the story in the Gospels about feeding up to 5,000. The specific passage that I'm looking at is in John chapter 6. So they're looking at the crowds, and Jesus turns to Philip, who is one of his followers, and he asks him, okay, so where are we going to buy bread? And obviously it's kind of like a tongue-in-cheek question, because they're in front of 5,000 people, so it's not like they're actually going to be able to come up with that amount of bread. And an additional notation there is that Philip doesn't really feature very much in the Gospels. Like most people know about Peter and Paul, but Philip isn't exactly a main character. So if this was going to be inserted for the purpose of convincing people like me thousands of years later, you probably wouldn't use Philip. He's not a big character. But an additional detail, 6 chapters later in a different context, we learned that Philip is from Bethsaida. Totally different situation. And so that adds an additional detail to the story. But the question remains why it is Philip is asked the question. And I think that question is answered of why Philip would have been asked in the Gospel according to Luke. And we learn that the situation, the whole episode happened, Luke chapter 9. The feeding of the 5,000, it says, was in Bethsaida. So I think this is an example where it clarifies why Philip would have been asked, because he would know where the food is. Kind of like, asking the natives in any city where to go, what the attractions are. So I think this is an example where seemingly casual details in different Gospels interlock in surprising ways that seem at least to increase the credibility of the account.
Okay, but have you ever looked at the examples of where the Gospels conflict? Because you're looking at things that make sense, right? You're finding information that you're like, if this were true, this would totally make sense and line up when we're talking about the accounts from the Gospels. But then what about all the places where the Gospels conflict with each other?
Yeah, so I think you ought to weigh the best evidence for the historicity against the best evidence. for the ahistoricity. And so I was giving you examples of what convinced me, not what didn't convince me. We can look at the details that would seem to conflict, certainly. Like I said before, I think a few of those are to be expected, because I think that's the character of human testimony, is that you're going to find variation on what people report. But I was giving positive evidence. But we can look at the
Right.
too.
No, you're right. I asked you what
I'm open to that.
That's fair. I guess in what you said about the historicity, the historical evidence outweighing the ahistorical evidence, it wouldn't be ahistorical, it'd be like contradictory information. No, because it's a historical document. It's just conflicting with other historical documents in the Bible. It wouldn't be ahistorical. It'd just be like anecdotal evidence that doesn't exactly perfectly line up with other anecdotes, right? Like one gospel's an anecdote and you have another one.
When I read the skeptical literature, they use the term ahistorical, which is why I do, but I'm not going to get hung up on the labels. We can call it whatever we want, so long as we understand each other.
Okay, yeah, I guess I was misunderstanding it as like, okay, yeah, I guess I was misunderstanding. So I am just catching up on this whole concept, so, okay.
Can I ask you a question real quick, Micheal?
Yeah.
Are you familiar with when the Gospels were written?
Yes. Well, I know there are differing views, and I think that the mainstream view for, Mark was written first, which I agree with. Most people would say that's written 70 AD, and then you have Matthew and Luke, which are in the 80s or 90s, and then John, which is like 95, come into turn of the century type thing. I think that's consensus.
Okay, and how old did people usually live back then?
Oh boy, I know there were a lot of wars, so that could have reduced lifespan. I actually don't have the number off the top of my head.
I mean, not that old. I don't have a number off the top of my head either. I was just curious if you knew. Yeah, there's a lot of speculation as to whether or not the people who composed these Gospels are actually identified by the names that the Gospels bear. And there's also speculation as to the sources. Just doing some light Googling, because this is stuff that I always want to learn more about. And I've heard of the Q source before, but there's a source called Q or Kel or Quell. I'm not sure exactly how to pronounce it, but it's basically something. Yeah. Okay. So you're familiar with this concept. So if these documents are all drawing from one another, if any one of them is false, would they not all by drawing from each other? Like, do you get what we're getting at? If there are inconsistencies and they all draw from each other, how do we know that it's not a multiplicative, effect, essentially?
Okay, so the thing about Q is that it's only in relation to the synoptic gospels, which are Mark, Matthew, and Luke. The thing is that there is information that Matthew and Luke both have in common from Mark, and then there's information that Matthew and Luke both have in common that you can't find in Mark, and so Q is postulated to explain the differences, the similarities between Matthew and Luke that you don't find in Mark. That's Q.
Right, but if Luke and Mark were there, why would they need these other sources? Or not Luke and Mark, Luke and Matthew, I believe. The later ones.
Yeah, well, we're kind of getting sidetracked a little, but I mean, I'm not necessarily saying they had, so there would be information that they would have known about personally, and then there would have been information that they might not have been specifically party to, in which case it makes sense they would use sources that they had.
How big do you think these Gospels were? Like, how far and wide do you think they were published when they were written? Do you think that the Gospel authors just like mailed them to each other, or they all lived in the same city, or how do you envision that going down? I guess.
I think there was a certain amount of oral tradition in between the events depicted and the actual authorship of the Gospels. I am not familiar enough with the geography and the historical significance of that to be able to give a detailed answer.
Okay, no, and that's fine. That's an acceptable answer. I mean, like I said, I can't go on about that either. I'm just curious if because you're the one who's claiming that these are that these are historically accurate, and I again, it's one of those things, and I don't want to be too reductionist here, But I've always heard it explained that, you know, New York City appears in the Spider-Man comic, but that doesn't tell us that Spider-Man is real. That tells us that, you know, New York City is real, and that the person who wrote Spider-Man likes New York City. Same thing with the Bible. You know, Israel is real. That doesn't mean the Bible's real. And I know you're being more nuanced about it than that. I'm not trying to be too reductionist here, but just to kind of recap, if there are both true and not true things in it, then I think that entire source should be suspect, not just the parts that we find to be consistent inside of the source.
So what I would say is that I would take an inductive, cumulative approach to the sources. I think that, you know, if we could look at the areas that we can check them on in history, and if they seem to be getting those right, then that ought to mean something for the areas that we can't necessarily check them on, because we can't check them on everything. 2,000 years ago.
Right. Well, we can't check them on anything, actually.
And how would you determine that?
Well, you said we can't check them on everything because it was 2,000 years ago, and I'm saying we can't actually verify any primary source at this point. It's too, you know, sands of time have washed it away. I mean, we have primary writings from the era, but we don't have primary sources of the Bible, is what I'm saying. We only have reproductions.
Don't remain. When I was saying checking, I meant like how you would check anything else, like any other ancient source. I wasn't necessarily saying we go back to time mission as well.
Oh, okay. No. Okay, I got you.
Yeah. So I think if we can look at the instances in which we can check, verify, and by that I mean how we would check, verify any other ancient source. You know, if we can develop a cumulative case, and that I think ought to mean something for the areas in which the gospel accounts cannot be verified, because we are 2,000 years removed and we don't have all the sources that they would have had. And so I think looking at instances like the ones that I gave you, a Roman historian named Colin Hemer did a study on Acts of the Apostles, and he wrote a book called, I believe it's the Acts of the Apostles in the Setting of Hellenistic History, I believe. And he found 84 instances of historical confirmation in the last half of the book of Acts. So I guess the cumulative case seems to be quite strong. I guess I would need to know what you guys are referring to when you say areas where they got things wrong, if we're going to, you know, weigh that against all these areas that it seems like they got things right on.
Sure. I can email you some examples. I don't have any off the top of my head right now, but there are like conflicting accounts within the Gospels. And I think you said they might have been, Martin, you said they might have been anonymous. They definitely were anonymously written.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't think I said they might have. Oh, you're talking to him.
No, I might have.
But
I don't make any claim to authorship. My argument doesn't depend on Mark actually writing Mark. Whoever it is, I think they knew what they were doing.
So so that person has to be a disciple of Christ, though, for it to be right, because Mark was a disciple, or apostle? Excuse me. Sorry, I was using the wrong word.
Yeah, because it wouldn't be eyewitness.
It's necessary for them to be a disciple. Mark was definitely not an eyewitness.
What?
For sure.
Okay.
Neither Mark nor Luke was.
Okay, so why you just think they were inspired by God to write accurately?
Yeah, like I said, I kind of bracket the theology. I'm just looking at this from the historical component. And I think their writing, if you compare that to that of other authors, historians of the time, I think it compares remarkably well. And I think it can be cross-checked. And I think the result of that checking ought to increase one's confidence that what's being written is in fact what happened.
Okay. All right, Martin, are you looking up conflicting accounts within the Gospels, or should I?
No, because I don't want to necessarily do that. I'm just doing a little bit of light reading about the Gospel of Mark, because that's one of the ones that I'm more familiar with. Wrapping back to the historicity of the resurrection. The thing that I want to see is that a human can revive from being dead, like a human body, and that like people can walk on water and stuff like that. Like we're talking about the internal consistency of the Bible. I want to see the external consistency with reality.
Sure. So is your attack then going to be philosophical in nature about the validity of miracles? Is this what you're saying?
Well, it's it's not so much an attack. It's just a place of doubt. Like, I don't think that that's something that's capable of happening. And if it is something that can happen, then why is God so reserved with his power, I guess?
Okay. The way I like to look at these sorts of things is to at least leave the possibility of miracles on the table. To say, look, maybe not always it's the most probable explanation, but I think it should be at least possibly true. And that leaves the door open for evidence to be compared for and against the miracles. And if the evidence seems to point in that direction, then I think it is rational to follow that evidence and to tentatively conclude that, yes, a miracle did happen. And if the converse is the case, then I think one ought to revise their assessment in light of that direction as well.
Does your assessment include a presupposition that God both exists and is capable of miracles? Because that's a lot to assume at the start of an assessment.
That's not how I didn't. So there's different forms of apologists. There's classical apologetics, which is kind of where you're going. They work for God's existence first, and then they say, let's look at the resurrection. That's not how I did it. I just looked at the evidence for the resurrection and concluded it was good enough. So I'm not assuming that. Okay,
well, it's not good enough for me. I can tell you that much. And I am a former Christian. I have given my testimony and all that before, and claimed that I believed it because I did at the time. And that's the thing, is however many people believe something doesn't make it any more true. I think we're kind of getting close to wrapping here. Right? No, I know, but I'm explaining why I believed at the time. And why I no longer do.
Sure.
Autumn, do you have anything else you wanna say before we wrap here? I think we're kind of getting overtime.
Yeah, nothing that I can do too briefly because I have like a few responses I've been brewing, but not if we're wrapping up the show.
We don't have to wrap. I just don't have much else to say at this point.
Yeah, I guess it's just like, and I would have to see more of this evidence that he's talking about, and it would be like a longer conversation for me to say for certain. But like, what stops you from being like, they were really accurate, good storytellers? Because like you're saying, what they're saying makes sense for who lived in the city at the time. Was it Philip? Can you say that part again?
Yeah, Philip with Bethsaida was feeding to the 5,000. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. Can you repeat that part for me?
Sure, yeah. Sure. Okay, yeah. So John chapter 6 starts out. They're in front of the crowd. Jesus asks Philip where to buy the bread. That's odd. Philip's not a big character. 6 chapters later, we learn that Philip is from Bethsaida. That's an additional detail. Then Luke chapter 9, it says that the episode with the feeding the 5,000 is in Bethsaida, which explains why Jesus would have asked Philip, but that's a different source. Seemingly casually interlocking details, I think, ought to increase one's confidence that this actually happened.
Okay.
None of that.
Yeah, see, and that. Well, hold on.
Sorry,
I think. Yeah, you said it was my turn.
Sorry.
See, that seems like it could be like good storytelling, right? Because like when, not to say that J.K. Rowling's a good person, but when she writes Harry Potter, she has like these crazy storylines that all like tie in together, and it makes sense later on in the story, little details that you missed before. And every time you read the Harry Potter series, there's little things that you find like that add up, right? So what makes you say this is evidence for Christianity being true rather than earlier man being good storytellers? Because also, like I said, if you look up, the one example that comes to mind, and I'm sorry that I don't have more, I'm going to get better at thinking off the top of my head, but if you look up who carried Jesus's cross, the details are different in every gospel, and that seems no less important than this detail about Philip to me. And you're saying that outweighs the contradictions, like the things that make sense outweigh the contradictions, but I don't see it that way so far, and I'm trying to be fair to you. So this is obviously a call-in show. We have a short amount of time, and I'm sure you've looked a lot into this. So in order to be fair, maybe we can talk more on Discord or another time. But to me, it's like that seems. Do you get what I'm getting at here?
Yeah, you're basically saying that I'm doing a heads I win, tails you lose kind of thing.
Well, you're looking at the things now. This would be confirmation bias, not that that's kind of like the atheist go-to. So I hate to use it, but like you're looking at the things that confirm Christianity to be true, like the story about Philip, and you're saying that that's historical and that makes sense, and it does, especially if you're looking for hope and some God that loves you. But then on the other end of things, please look up contradictions between the Gospels. Look up who carried Jesus's cross, and see if that information is just as conflicting as the information about Philip is compelling, because I think that there are just as many conflicting things as compelling things in the Bible. And you could say, I'm biased because I'm an atheist, right? I think that would be fair, right? But at the same time, there was a point where I wasn't biased. I was a Christian who wanted Christianity to be true. I very much did. And there was so much evidence against Christianity being true that I absolutely could not believe it. It wasn't even a choice. I woke up one day and I just didn't anymore, and it sucked. But I would say that I had a bias for wanting Christianity to be true, and I still couldn't prove it to be true to myself. So,
Okay.
in fairness here.
Couple things.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't really talked about my transition experience because I don't see it as relevant to the evidence, but I didn't, as an atheist, and surprisingly enough, still don't actually want Christianity to be true. I don't prefer this version of reality. Not saying I'm not biased, but I'm not.
Why not?
You mentioned before that I might wanting to be looking. Okay, so you're familiar with divine hiddenness, the argument from Divine by J.L. Schellenberg and whatnot?
Yes.
Okay, so there's a cultural expectation built up between Christians that when you convert, you're supposed to have this internal vertical experience. You're supposed to hear something or sense something or something. I used to be a Christian before, and I was an atheist, came back to be a Christian. I haven't received anything that I can tell to be communication from God, which has caused me no amount of I don't know what word to use, but I don't prefer the type of God to exist that I would expect to communicate with me, but never seems to. So I don't actually like this version of Christianity that I happen to think is correct.
Okay.
I do think I have biases. I'm not saying I don't, but
yeah, a couple of questions. Sorry to cut you off. A couple of questions.
Yeah.
What do you mean by atheist? Define atheist for me, and then why were you an atheist?
Okay. I understand there to be two different definitions of atheism that are.
Give the definition of atheist that you were. I don't want to hear I've heard all the different definitions. I want to hear the kind of atheist that you were and why you were an atheist.
Okay. So I started off with I'm not convinced, and that was because I realized as a Christian there were a lot of things I was taking for granted that I couldn't answer. And I thought the rational response to that was to suspend belief until I had come up with more information and then reevaluated that time. So I started off as the I'm not convinced type. And I moved to the I'm convinced to the contrary, more the classical, I am convinced this is not the case at a later time. So I did both.
Convinced against Christianity or all gods?
All gods, theism.
Okay. And then why? Oh, you said why? Because you didn't find Christianity compelling, but you also just didn't find any evidence for there being any other deities, if I'm gathering correctly.
So I originally found out I was taking a lot of things for granted, didn't really know what I was talking about. And so I thought the rational response was to suspend belief and to gather more information and reevaluate at that time. So while I was gathering information, I said, not convinced. Once I thought I was at a place where I could revisit it, then I said, I am convinced, and it's that theism is not true. Ergo, that version of atheism, classical atheism. That's where I was at.
Okay. I just wanted to, and so you studying the historicity of the claims in the Gospels did eventually convince you that Christianity wasn't true, even though you don't like the theology. You're like, because of divine hiddenness. Am I correct? I just want to make sure I'm completely understanding you.
Yeah, so divine hiddenness is like a buzz phrase that most people know. I wouldn't necessarily call it that. I'm convinced based on the historicity, but I would prefer that it not be true, just because I don't like the fact that, I mean, I guess if I'm to be honest, I feel like I put a lot of effort into this, and then, you know, he doesn't have anything to say to me, kind of thing. So it's kind of a, I don't know. I don't prefer that type of being. I would prefer one that would want to reach out in a way that I can recognize, not to get too deep or anything personal.
No, I would prefer that as well. I we're on the same page. And to be honest with you, I feel like I have good news. I feel like it's not true. I don't find the historicity of the accounts of the Gospels to be compelling myself. And I'm not saying that you find them compelling because of any sort of bias of wanting it to be true, but maybe in doing your research, you started to look for the things that confirmed it true. Like, I don't know what would motivate you to do such a thing if you're not wanting it to be true, if you're not feeling an emotional connection with this God. And I think there's a good reason why, you know, just being completely blunt with you here. But in fairness to you, we haven't sat down and looked at a whole lot of information. This is a short phone call. So I do appreciate that you do look into things. It seems like you have a healthy amount of skepticism, and I would say keep using that.
Yeah, agreed. Everybody should have a skeptic muscle, let's say. Uh-oh, the host disconnected on call in studio, so Micheal cannot hear us. And that's not something I can reconnect, unfortunately. Ethan, I think... Do you want to keep going with the call, or Autumn?
No, is he still there?
He's still there. We're just not connected to him at the moment. The bridge is broken, as it were.
Okay. I was worried he thought we hung up on him or something. Okay.
I don't know if he can hear us, but I bet Ethan can. Maybe
Let him
you
know.
can screen him. I'm not sure.
Well, we can,
anyway.
That was the end of the call anyway, so we can wrap up the show and head over to Discord.
Yeah, let's go ahead and wrap. Autumn, it was such a pleasure to host this show with you.
Yes,
so glad you could be here, and hopefully we can be on again sometime.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. With that being said, Ethan, do you want to come on and close us out? You are muted, by the way.
Sorry about that. So we're still trying to figure out like how to start and end the show, because ideally it would be best if we could just have the host start and me not having to come on at the beginning.
Yeah.
So hopefully next week we'll start doing that when Martin will be back on with his crap. Who's your co-host next week?
Kenneth, I think? Or is it Brian? I think it's Kenneth or Brian. One of the two.
Yeah, you and Brian will be on.
Okay,
I hope
cool.
Everyone enjoyed the unique, big, diverse group of callers we had today. Autumn, what did you think of doing your first episode?
This was so much fun. I really enjoyed it.
Yay! Martin, did you have fun?
Always.
Good. All right, everyone. Well, we're going to jump into the Discord. I'd like to thank my top-tier patrons: Cindy PLAZA, Kenneth, Leonard, Skye, JumpandShoot, Oz, Secular Rarity, Chianti, Fava Beans, Philip Leitch, Kaitlyn Beyond, Toast, Richard Gilliver, Sunset Sarge. I can't talk right now. We'll see everyone in Discord. Thursday, Helen Green will be on Ask an Atheist with Autumn as co-hosting, and then later in the pickup line at 9 p.m. we'll be on it with Hannah Vaughn. Have a good night, everyone. See you on Discord.